So this chapter is actually all about how to write programs by not writing programs. So the focus is actually about guided exploration through unplugged activities. So in particular, it's about how important it is to get away from the computer if you're going to learn to program well, so that the focus is on concepts and understanding the concepts, not just exploring and not really understanding the detail of what you're doing. So the chapter sort of looks at several different kinds of unplugged activities, including role play activities where people act out computation. So there's no reason why programs have to be compiled onto computers. They can be compiled onto people, and the people can do the actions, and that gives a very strong way of starting to understand exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it, rather than being in a black box that you can't really tell what's really happening. We talk about memorable stories, we talk about using games and puzzles, and also about the importance of written and verbal explanations as part of making sure this focus on concepts leads to a deep understanding of the concepts to give a strong foundation for when you are actually programming through exploration of writing code. So it's all about how unplugged activities can provide some structure that is really complementary to actually writing code that helps form that guided part. So it's based on a bunch of activities. So ones I've contributed are basically from my CS Fund Teaching London Computing project, and Shuchi has also provided ones from her project. So we look at a series of actual example unplugged activities. So box variables is a way of doing role playing, for example. Locked in 20 questions is actually something that goes with the storytelling idea. So just to sort of give an idea of that, that's partly about the idea of actually putting sort of story narratives around understanding programming. So my favorite one of this, which is actually talked about in the book, is actually based on a book called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which is the autobiography of Jean-Dominique Bauby, who actually had locked-in syndrome, which is total paralysis, and about how you could possibly write a book with total paralysis. So in one sense, it's not about computing at all, but as you go through the story, you unlock lots of issues that actually are computational thinking, computing issues, and those are actually illustrated with specific activities like playing a game of 20 questions and doing some role play activity. So that sort of sums up a combination of things. Other activities are playing Simon Says as a game activity, and another story-based one about story variables, where you're aiming to sort of understand variables and their role in programs by telling stories about some variables that actually change as the story, so things that change value as the story progresses. So it's all about how you can use these kinds of activities to get a deeper understanding of concepts. And in the chapter, we also talk about the links of this to Semantic Waves, which is a theory by Carl Maton, which is all about what makes a sort of good learning experience. And what this says is basically good learning experiences should follow a wave-like structure, or possibly a series of waves, where you start with abstract concepts and then you unpack those concepts using things like unplugged activities and examples, diagrams, metaphors, and that takes you down to concrete things, the things the learner already understands or can easily understand. But then the really important thing is you go back up and repack those concepts, do activities that actually repack back up to the abstract concepts and the technical language. So it's all about how you gain mastery of the language. And so if you apply this kind of approach, this theory, to the way you use unplugged activities, it gives you a way of giving you more chance that the unplugged activities aren't just playing the games, and you are actually linking them to the technical language and the abstract concepts that you're really trying to teach. And so the chapter actually ends with a whole series of do's and don'ts that are based on this theory of semantic waves that suggests these approaches and ways to structure activities and to make sure your activities do give a good guided exploration experience. And that's basically it.